Hello everyone, welcome to my TV review video. In this video, I will be reviewing the newest in TV episodes and seasons. So let's take a look at what dropped onto television this week.
Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing good. Hope you all are doing happy and doing blessed and doing overall safe. So, this past week, we got a new series from Disney Plus called Daredevil Born Again. And this series is basically Daredevil's introduction into the MCU. Okay? Now, this is going to be the first 2 episodes review. Okay? I'm going to be looking at these 2 episodes because they both dropped on the same night, okay? And I'm going to basically tell you everything I can about these episodes. I am going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but just in case I do drop some spoilers, I am going to be putting a spoiler warning on this, okay? Throughout this entire video, you will see a spoiler warning because I do not want you spoiled for this series, okay? So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From this point on, possible spoilers for Daredevil Born Again episodes 1 and 2. So, moving forward and looking at episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again, let's kind of focus on the basics of the show first off. So, talking about episode 1. Episode 1 had a runtime of 1 hour. That is without commercials. While episode 2 had a runtime of about 40 minutes. Okay. The main stars of the show was Charlie Cox as Matthew Murdock, Daredevil. Deborah Ann Woll as Karen Page. Eldon Henson as Foggy Nelson. Alette Zarur as Vanessa. And Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk and the Kingpin. Now, Episode 1 was titled Heaven's Half Hour, while Episode 2 was titled Optics, and it was 40 minutes long. Now, we're going to start off with Episode 1 and then move on to Episode 2, okay? So, let me just kind of give you some of my notes on Heaven's Half Hour, Episode 1. So, Heaven's Half Hour is the first episode of Daredevil Born Again. And there's a few of my notes I want to talk about. So, first off, we get a new hallway fight sequence. Now, this is something common in the old Daredevil series that was over on Netflix, that's now over on Disney Plus. We get a new fight sequence. Now, it is intense, okay? And it does involve a lot more people than what happened over at Netflix, okay? But it's not as chaotic as the Netflix ones. And what I mean by that is you didn't really have a whole lot of the shaky cam going on compared to the Netflix stuff. Okay? How I feel about this, I'm kind of torn because I felt the chaoticness of it really added a lot of realism to it. But the fact that they did increase the intensity of it, I liked. Okay? And the fact that it wasn't held in like some private area. This was out open in public, in front of a whole bunch of people, really added to it, okay? And whereas the old, Netflix fight scenes, they would happen, in like a hallway or away from like the public viewing eyes. This one happened in the middle of a bar full of people. So yeah, I enjoyed this fight sequence. Now, I will say that I do prefer the old ones better, okay? Just because of their chaoticness, just because of the shaky cam. But good job. This was a really good fight sequence. I really did enjoy it. And it was awesome, okay? Good start, okay? Then we get to the intro sequence. And the old intro sequence over on the Netflix stuff, the Netflix series had an intro sequence where it was like blood dripping down and becoming Daredevil, okay? And that was the old Netflix Daredevil series. This intro sequence feels a little bit different, okay? And it feels like it's telling a story all of its own, okay? You see all these rocks like crumbling and falling apart, and what you're seeing is Kingpin crumbling and then being reformed as Daredevil. But it's all like rocks and stone instead of blood like the original series was. Okay, so the intro sequence itself is very reminiscent of the old Netflix stuff, but instead of using like red or blood or whatever you want to call it, it uses, the crumbling rocks to take Kingpin and reform Daredevil. Okay, so it's very reminiscent of the intro sequence we got from the original Netflix series. And on top of that, when it happens, you get like 5-10 minutes of a show, then you get the intro sequence, then you get the rest of the show. Same thing happened with the old Netflix series, okay? And I have no problem with that, okay? It gets people interested in the show before the intro starts, okay? It gets them interested in the show before the intro even starts. So, another win for this, okay? Another win for this, in my opinion. Okay, this is where we could be getting into some spoiler territory. So I'm going to give you another warning right now that there could be spoilers from this moment on, okay? Now, the next thing I noticed was this does seem to start off from the end of the Netflix series, okay? And there is no mention of the blip. There's no mention of what happened in She-Hulk. There's very few mentions of what happened in Echo, but they don't come from Daredevil. They come mostly from Kingpin, okay? Because Echo did not really involve Daredevil. It involved Kingpin, okay? But overall, what we see at the beginning of this episode, the big event that happens, seems to pay homage to the old series, but really break away from it, okay? Really create a new normal for Daredevil and company, okay? Let me say that I felt that they could have done this another way, okay? And I honestly was surprised they did not use the blip to do this, okay? Now, if you don't know what the blip is, it's the moment that Thanos went and snapped his fingers and wiped out half the civilization, and then the Avengers snapped everyone back, okay? It's what happened in Endgame and Infinity War, okay? I was very surprised that they did not use the blip. Instead, they used an event at the beginning of this series to kind of shake things up, change things, and really cause a rift between Daredevil and Karen. And it's over Foggy. And I cannot tell you what happened in this part, okay? Because it will be huge, huge spoilers. Just know that what happens in this causes a huge rift to the point where within 15 minutes of the first episode, you no longer see Foggy and you no longer see Karen, okay? Now, these episodes made no mention of what happened in She-Hulk. Daredevil was in She-Hulk, and there was no mention of what happened in there. I'm okay with that. She-Hulk was a terrible series, okay? And it did Daredevil no favors. Alright? It did him no favors. I am very surprised they did not use or even mention the blip in this series, okay? I am very surprised by that, okay? Because I thought for sure that was how they were going to bring Daredevil into the MCU. Instead, they're connecting him to the original series, okay? Basically making what happened in the original series all canon. But through a huge event at the beginning of episode 1, they're basically creating a new normal for Matt Murdock. After this big event in episode 1, which happens before the intro sequence, okay? After this event, there is a new normal for Matt Murdock. He's got new friends. He's got a new love interest. Karen is no longer around. There is a big rift between the two of them. I mean, and Foggy you don't see anymore. Okay? So, with that being said, this event that happens at the beginning of the intro sequence, okay, at the beginning, before the intro credits even start running, really does not only pay homage to the original series, acknowledge it, but also creates a new normal for Matt Murdock, for Karen Page, Foggy Nelson, Fisk, Vanessa, and a whole bunch of other people. Okay? And finally, on this note, Fisk is still feeling the effects of what happened to him in Echo. What happened to him in Echo I think will play a big part in this series. But in the first 2 episodes, it especially plays a huge part. Because he's still feeling what happened in Echo. Now, I have not seen Echo. And you do not need to see Echo to know that something huge happened to him in that series. Okay? In fact, throughout the first and second episodes, it's alluded to that something huge happened to him where he had to go and recuperate. Okay? So, Echo is still bearing a huge weight on Fisk as of this first 2 episodes. Okay? Now, one of the best scenes in this episode was the meeting towards the end between Fisk and Murdock. Because, remember, they're still taking the old series into account. And at the very end of that series, Wilson Fisk knew who Daredevil was. He knew that Matt Murdock was Daredevil. Okay? And Matt Murdock knew that Wilson Fisk was the kingpin of crime. Okay? Alright. There is a meeting at the end of this series at the end of this episode, I should say, between Matthew Murdock and Wilson Fisk. Okay? And things are changing around both of them. You know, at this point, Wilson Fisk is going through some stuff, and Matthew Murdock is going through some stuff. Okay? And remember what I said earlier. There is a new normal at this point for Matthew Murdock. Okay? And the same is going on for Wilson Fisk. Okay? And these two are meeting, and this scene is intense. There's no fighting in it, but just the way they're talking, it feels like 2 fighters just waiting for the fight to start and sizing each other up. Okay? You can almost tell that they know that eventually they're going to fight again. That one way or another, while right now they're not actively doing the things they did before. You know, Wilson is not actively being the kingpin of crime. He's trying to run for mayor. Matt is not actively being Daredevil at this moment. He's just being a lawyer. Okay? You can tell that both of these men can already smell and see that they are getting ready to fight each other again. They know it's coming down the road. That one of them is going to mess up. Okay? And eventually they'll end up basically fighting again. Okay? And they're just basically sizing each other up after such a long break from one another. It is a very intense scene that doesn't have any fisticuffs. Just the way they talk and the way they're looking at each other and what they're saying just shows that they know that a fight's coming. Okay? And both of them, and just in episode 1, they know a fight's coming. Okay? Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in the next episode, but they both know that before all is said and done, they're going to end up on opposite sides again, and they're going to start fighting again. And they're going to have to start fighting to determine the future of New York City. Now, another thing I noticed in this episode was there is a rift between Fisk and Vanessa. And in the original series, it was Fisk who kind of drugged Vanessa into his world of crime and destruction. Okay? Now, it's now Vanessa who's the one who's running the criminal empire. Okay? It's Vanessa who's handling all the crime families, who's distributing the money, all that. Okay? And it's kind of like Fisk on the outside. And you get a little bit of information that while Fisk was recuperating from the events of Echo, Vanessa took over the business. But now that he's back and somehow he's changed and he's trying to become mayor, he doesn't want anything to do with that anymore because he knows that it will blow up in his face. But at the same time, Vanessa's like, hey, you were gone for a long time. I took over things. I helped solidify things. I helped keep things running. Without me and without this, you wouldn't have a chance to be mayor and stuff. So there's definitely a rift forming between these two, okay? And I have to wonder if they ain't going to grow bigger and bigger, okay, as the series progresses. Because you can definitely see there are cracks. In the OG series, Fisk loved Vanessa. In this series, he still loves Vanessa. And over time, Vanessa grew to love Fisk. But now, I'm beginning to wonder if perhaps after these 2 episodes, if Vanessa ain't beginning to love the business more than she is Fisk. Okay? So I'm beginning to kind of wonder about that because you can definitely tell that there is a huge rift between Fisk and Vanessa. Okay? Now, another thing is, and that's really what I noticed in episode 1 of Daredevil Born Again, titled Heaven's Half Hour. Now, let's start focusing on episode 2. And it is titled Optics, and it is 40 minutes long. So in episode 2, there are 2 big Easter eggs. Actually, there's 3 if you really look hard enough. But if you listen and look hard enough, there is some Easter eggs to the events that occurred in Spider-Man No Way Home and The Punisher. So this is another link back to the Punisher TV series over on Netflix. Okay? That was on Netflix, I should say. But it's also a link to the Spider-Man movie No Way Home. Because in that movie, Matthew Murdock did represent Peter Parker after things went halfway backwards with him in No Way Home. Okay? And there are some quick, small little Easter eggs in this episode. Okay? Now, the nuts and bolts of this episode, and really one of the storylines that are going to be going forward, I really don't know about. Because, first off, it mirrors a real world event that did happen. Okay? The whole thing does mirror a real world event that did happen. Okay? And it gets right up to the edge of being maybe too political. Okay? I mean, it gets right up there. Alright? And I'm very, very concerned that this storyline may cross the line at some point of being too, one side or the other concerning this event. And all I can say about the event this is mirroring is it happened in New York City and it happened on Subway. Okay? I am not going to get into any more details about it because first off, I don't want to spoil you. And really, I don't really want to get into that cesspool of politics. Okay? But this storyline that comes up in episode 2 does mirror a real world event. And while it doesn't get to be too political, it gets right up to the line. Okay? And I am very concerned about the storyline in that it will cross that line at some point. Okay? Now, episode 2 does so, and really the nuts and bolts of episode 2 shows how hard it is to change for men like these. It shows that Matt is resisting being Daredevil with all his might. Okay? And that Fisk is trying to be more of a mayor than the Kingpin again. And both men both succeed and fail in equal measure. Okay? Sometimes they take a step forward in not being these vigilantes or these crime bosses. Sometimes they take a step back. Okay? And that's really what I saw in episode 2. Episode 2 was really a breather from episode 1. in that it was setting up what's going to be coming in episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So, really, episode 2 was a breather, setting up what was coming next. Okay? But the real core of this episode was the challenge of Matthew trying to resist being Daredevil, going back to being Daredevil again. And Fisk really trying not to use the same tactics he employed as the Kingpin. Okay. So that's really what I got for episode 2. So, some additional thoughts on both episodes. First off, neither episode had a post-credit scene. Okay. There are no post-credit scenes in either episode 1 or 2 of this show. Okay. Secondly, they do include the original cast of the original Netflix Daredevil series, okay? So you will see them, but really the show will focus on new characters. It will focus on Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox as Daredevil and the Kingpin. Okay, that's really where the focus will be in terms of characters. You will see Foggy and Karen in episode 1 for maybe 10, 20, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 at most. But beyond that, you won't see them, okay? This will focus on introducing us to new characters and also bringing back the core characters of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, with Charlie Cox playing Matthew Murdock, the Daredevil, and Vincent D'Onofrio playing Wilson Fisk as the Kingpin, okay? Another thing is, there is not a whole lot of fighting in these 2 episodes. Episode 1 probably had the most fight in it with that hallway fight scene. Okay? What you're really seeing in these 2 episodes is the setting up for what comes next. Okay? If you're one of these people who loves Easter eggs, the Easter eggs really start showing up in episode 2. That's where the Easter eggs are going to be, okay? There will be one that is an audio Easter egg and one that is a visual Easter egg. And you gotta really listen and look for them to see them. Okay? And the Easter eggs will link to Spider-Man and the Punisher. Okay? There is no mention of the OG Defenders. There's no mention of, the Purple Man. There's no mention of Luke Cage. There's no mention of, any of the other Defenders, like Kristen Ritter's character, Jessica Jones. There's no mention of Iron Fist. There's no mention of any of that. They talk about Queens and stuff like that, but as far as mentioning specific Defenders characters, they're not mentioning this. Now, that does not mean it won't happen eventually, but just in these 2 episodes, they're not mentioned. Okay? So, let me just kind of put a bow on everything in terms of these episodes. And like I said before, these are episodes 1 and 2. So first off, I like the fact that they did pay homage to the original series, making it canon, while at the same time charting their own course. I like the fact that it wasn't just one fight scene after another. That you had your fighting, but you also had the mental gymnastics going on. You had the courtroom drama going on. Okay, the courtroom drama in this is better than what they did in She-Hulk. Okay, loads better than what they did in She-Hulk. Okay, I like the fact that they did give Easter eggs for what happened in Punisher and Spider-Man No Way Home, and didn't really acknowledge what happened in She-Hulk. Now, I'm afraid they will have to eventually acknowledge it in some way, shape, or form. But as long as they don't focus on it and all that nonsense, if it's just a quick throwaway line, so be it. Okay. I like these episodes, Episode 1 was chock full of action and really set the stage for what came next. And episode 2 expanded on episode 1 with not as much action, but a lot more of the internal drama that's going on between Matt trying to just move forward away from Daredevil, but feeling the pull to be pulled back in. And at the same time, Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, trying to move forward being the mayor, but at the same time feeling that urge to come back and go back into old ways of being the kingpin. Okay? I like these episodes, and I really don't want them to fail. Okay? I really do not want this series to fail. Okay? But it is still 2 episodes in, and maybe it's the cynic in me, but I'm just worried that someone somewhere is going to make a phone call and they're going to make a change, and it's going to cause really all the goodwill that these episodes have built to come crashing down. What I'm really hoping for is Daredevil Born Again is not so much the Daredevil brand being born again, not so much as the Avengers, not the Avengers, but the Defenders brand being born again. What I'm hoping this is this is not so much as Daredevil being born again, but Marvel being born again. That what we're seeing is the first series that is a new course for Marvel. Okay? I really hope that we are seeing that. And if they can do that and they can replicate it, with, say, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist, then I think that Marvel can rise from the ashes. This show is loads better than what we've gotten over the past couple of years from Marvel. Okay? I really like this show. Okay, so far. Like I said before, 2 episodes in. Okay? They could do a bait and switch and it turn into a complete pile of garbage. I'm not going to give you a score right now because I'm going to wait for the series to end. Okay? But as of episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again, I loved them. They were really well done. I really enjoyed the action. I really enjoyed the internal drama. I enjoyed everything about these shows. And I can't wait to see the next episodes. And I have not honestly felt that way about a Marvel show in a long time. But anyway, that was my review of episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again. It is now streaming on Disney Plus. New episodes will be dropping Tuesday at 6 p.m. So if you got Disney Plus, check it out. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. when the new episodes drop. But look, you guys take care of yourselves. You guys watch over each other. You guys be groovy. Y'all be cool to one another. I will see y'all in the next video and in the next stream. Laters.
Thank you for watching my review. I hope you found it informative and I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and share and follow my channel for more content. Also, don't forget to check out my Odyssey page as well as my Rumble channel for content as well. Also, check out my Twitter when you can. I will see you in the next video and the next stream. Laters.